Hello, I'm Joe Przinski, President of the Board of Directors of KCAT TV. Welcome to Coffee and Candidates. Our host for today is Dr. Larry Gerston, a nationally recognized political analyst and emeritus professor at San Jose State University. Larry is going to be asking questions of the various candidates who are running for town council in this November's election. The discussion will center on issues that are significant to all of our community. As former mayor, I ask you to pay close attention and then vote wisely when you go to the polls on November 6th. In addition, I would like you, when this program concludes, to go to kcat.org and fill out a very short 3-question survey to let us know what you feel about this program and other KCAT programs. Again, thank you for watching. And now on to Coffee and Candidates.
Hey there, I'm hosting Coffee and the Candidates this morning at the KCAT studios. Want to see what it's all about? Come on in. Hi everybody.
Hi Larry.
Good to see you. I love my coffee. And thank you, Cafeteria, for providing this coffee throughout this series of Coffee and the Candidates. Well, hi there. My name is Larry Gerston. I'm the host of a wonderful series called Coffee and Candidates, brought to you on KCAT by the Los Gatos Community Foundation. And this series basically is an opportunity for all of us to get an idea of what the candidates for office, both at the town council in Los Gatos and the city council of Monte Sereno, their ideas, what they have to say as we approach November elections. Now, you've probably got a lot on your mind for November 6th, but you don't want to leave out these candidates for these very important offices, which for many of us are the most important offices we're going to have anything to do with all year long. And so with that in mind, right now we have the opportunity to interview the mayor of the town of Los Gatos, RobNNIE. Happy to see you here.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Good. This is your first full term.
It is,
Correct.
yes. I'm finishing up my first 4 years.
And so you are now running for re-election.
I am, yes.
Okay. And it must be a different feel to run for re-election rather than running for election, is it?
That's a good question. I'm treating it kind of the same. When I ran for election, I got out and I talked to a lot of people and to understand what did they want. And I'm doing the same thing again. I'm out knocking on doors again. I think many candidates, most candidates probably in the smaller towns and cities don't knock on doors. So I think I'm a little different in that way. And so I'm sort of treating it the same. It's a little busier though, especially when you're mayor, you have a lot of responsibilities and then you're supposed to be campaigning. Well, how do you get out and campaign when you're doing all your responsibilities? So
right. And you know, retail politics is something that we're really fortunate to see at local government levels, especially in small towns like Los Gatos and Monte Sereno, because you're not going to see a lot of that in San Jose or San Francisco because there are just too many people. So I guess from that you get a sense as to what's on their minds, what they really are thinking about, right?
Yes, yeah, I think it's really important to keep listening to our citizens. That's one of my values is you need to listen to all people before you make a decision on an issue that comes before council. Understand what people are thinking, understand what they're worried about.
When you first arrived at the council, what was the most important thing for you to get done, to accomplish with your colleagues? What was driving you to either change or keep going or whatever policy that area might have been?
Well, when I first came to council, our agenda was really full. We had, if you remember back, the Hillbrook wanting to expand issue that was very passionate in town. We were still working on trying to straighten out our North 40 specific plan. The Veterans Memorial was also trying to get moving forward at that time. So it was a very, very full agenda, and I felt, you know, I came in thinking, okay, I'm going to do all kinds of good things for the environment, and I'm going to bring people's thoughts in from all over the town, and then, you know, you come into council, and my second council meeting, they hand me a stack of paper this big, and I'm the kind of person that really feels like I need to study and understand everything really well. So I'd say the first year was a lot of studying, just catching up on issues that had been around for a while and making sure I really understood them.
Yeah. The Almond Grove neighborhood, the improvement project there, which seems to be never ending for folks around there. Is this something that you think is going along well? Do you think that there is an end in sight for these neighbors, and that is that accomplishing what people hoped?
I'm actually very happy the way Almond Grove is progressing. That was another issue, trying to find the money for it. It was supposed to be $16 million to get it done, and it's tough to come up with that kind of money. We ended up bidding, well, we did 2 streets to see how it went, and then we ended up bidding the rest of the streets, and by bidding them all together, we actually reduced what the total cost was going to be by $2 million. So that ended up being a good move. And it is disruptive, but the neighbors have been really good about it. And the company we happened to hire has done a really good job of always communicating with the neighbors, helping them as much as they could. If their driveways had to be blocked when it was being torn up or cemented, they always made sure people knew, and somebody's left their car in the driveway. They make sure that, hey, did you want to move your car? Oh, no, you don't. Okay, good, because you know you won't get to it. So they've been really good. And I only got a lot of compliments from people. People used to, well, they have go out and they'll give them donuts, and so they really appreciate the work. And we also were told it was going to take 3 years to get through the last 8 streets, and we're almost done. This is year 2. We're almost done. I saw them saw cutting street number 9 today, so we're getting through it faster than we expected. So I know it's been disruptive, but I'm really happy at the speed at which it's been going.
Have you heard, you walked the town, you say, which I think is wonderful. Have you heard resentment from neighbors outside the area saying, gosh, why is the town spending all that money with cement streets, on this part of the city when there's so many other needs that could be solved with that chunk? Have you heard that at all?
I haven't heard that at all, actually. And that, now that you mentioned cement, at first cement was going to be a little more expensive, and they found ways to actually reduce it by making the cement a little thicker but less prep work. So you actually save more money in the people work than in the material. So it only came out to be a little bit more than asphalt. But once the cement is in, we don't have to go back and do any repair for probably, well, maybe little something once in a while, but pretty much nothing major for 50 or 60 years. Well, asphalt, we're going to be back in 7 years, disrupting for maybe a seal or an overlay, and then at 20 years, a tear up. So we actually save money for the town in the long run.
I guess in 50 years, you won't have to worry about it. You'll be out of office.
Well, anybody that's upset about the construction, you just tell them, well, we won't be doing it again in your lifetime.
Right. But speaking of money, there's a measure on the ballot this time to increase the sales tax in Los Gatos by 1/8 of a cent. Why? The town seems to be doing well. The money's in the coffers. Why do we want to add that additional amount of money to the city?
Well, it's interesting. You lead from spending a lot on the streets, and they were in really bad condition. I'd fallen in holes, and they were really broken up. So it was something that really needed to be done. But with that said, we planned for that a couple years ago, and then in the last 2-3 years, we've been looking closer at what is our budget projections out into the future, and the staff has done simulations for us, and you can see that our expenses are growing faster than our revenues are growing. A big part of that is the pension liabilities that are growing. That creates, as we have unfunded, that means bigger payments for the unfunded. We also did some simulations. What if we have a downturn and say property taxes are flat for 2 years? Or what if sales tax goes down like it did last recession, maybe 10% or something like that? What does that mean for our budget? And you quickly find us $1 million, $1.5 million in the hole, not anywhere near a balanced budget. So we're real, even before a downturn, our revenue and our expenses are starting, just in a couple of years, getting to the point that we won't have any excesses. And our capital projects are funded by our excesses. So not only will it get tighter just to keep up the services, it'll be tougher to find money to do capital projects.
So for that reason, you support Measure G?
I do support it, yes.
I wasn't trying to put words in your mouth.
Well,
by the way.
I'm
so
not,
sorry.
you know, I never liked the idea of raising taxes on people, but we had an ad hoc citizens committee that studied all this, and they came back and were strongly saying, you guys are going to end up with budget issues in the future. You need to raise revenue somehow.
Some people say that Measure G is a bad idea because all that money is going to be used just to pay down the pension problem. How do you deal with that question? What do you say?
Well, actually, I think their argument was sort of the other way. There was some arguing we should have a specific tax just to pay down pension liability. And the truth is, when the budget gets tight, where it's heading, we're going to have to pay the pension payments. And it's going to start stealing money from our services. If we go into a downturn or we get far enough into the future where the pension payments are going up a steep hill where we're having to pay more and more and more for about 15 years, we're going to be increasing our pension payments. Well, we get to the point, like I said, we have to pay them. If we get to that point, we're going to have to take money away from the police. We're going to have to cut back library hours. We're going to have to cut back how often we clean the parks. When I was knocking on doors, I've had more than one person say to me, "You guys used to trim the street trees every 2 years. Why are you not doing it as much?" Well, in actuality, last time we had a downturn, we had about 180 full-time equivalents, FTEs, you call them.
Yes.
After the downturn, we went way down, and we're still at only 140. So we're down 40 people from where we used to be. And so our service levels, we try our best, but they aren't where they were before. Imagine in the next downturn, how do we take our service levels down even more?
Talk about a couple of other things that affect so many people in Los Gatos. Parking. Do we get a garage? Where do we put the garage? What will the garage cost? How would it be paid for? Would this solve the problem of people feeling unable to come and enjoy themselves downtown? You've heard all these questions. What are your answers?
Two-part. That was one of the things I came into office. You're asking what did I want to get done. That was, now that you've reminded me, I thought we needed more parking, and I remember my campaign was actually talking about we need more parking to support our downtown businesses, and supporting, keeping our downtown vibrant and viable is important to me, and that parking is one thing that was stated that as needed. And I spent probably 2 years working on trying to get a garage built behind Mountain Charlie's. And we came up with ideas of having some market rate units we would sell to help finance it. And actually some of the property was bought with our RDA money, and we owe some affordable units built there also. By the time we tried all this and came up with something of a scale that might be acceptable to people in Los Gatos, we don't want it to get too big, we're still short $8.5 million. So the truth is, I don't see how we're going to come up with that kind of money for that. An alternative, I think, is maybe a better idea. We've been talking about a one-way pilot and we call it a pilot, see how it works out, on Santa Cruz. And to me, my vision is we have one way going south with one lane. That now allows you to have diagonal parking instead of parallel parking. So you've gained a whole bunch of parking by doing that. And then it also allows you maybe steal back a little bit parking, and you can put out platforms with tables and chairs and planters and activate the street more, which is again going to help our businesses.
Does that put more pressure on University? That's the parallel street, of course. If everybody's going that way, what happens on University? Does it become one way the other way around?
I don't think we're planning. Again, we're still waiting for a proposal from the town. As soon as this year's construction season is over, the staff is going to generate proposals. But I don't think we're going to do a one-way on University. So it might put, this is again a pilot, we see how it works. It might put more pressure on it heading northbound. But then on the other hand, you'll find a lot of people come off of 17, take that into the town exit and come down Santa Cruz and go out Route 9 or someplace like that. Well, if there isn't an easy way through, I'm expecting a lot of those people would probably stay on the highway to Route 9 instead. So you actually would reduce some of the traffic coming through town by doing this.
You've offered the perfect segue when you talk about traffic and Highway 17 and Highway 9. You know what I'm going to ask you. Every summer from Memorial Day on through Labor Day and then sometimes longer, the town gets inundated, flooded if you will, because of cars getting off of 17 thinking they're going to find a faster way to get to Santa Cruz. Of course, we both know they don't. What can be done? What are your ideas about solving this problem that I think just about bothers every single resident of Los Gatos?
I think traffic is the #1 thing affecting our quality of life in Los Gatos. Certainly the beach traffic and other traffic around schools and so forth. We've tried a lot to try to mitigate the problem. We've closed the entrance to the highway at the end of town, I mentioned. We did that for 2 years, and at first people were screaming, please close the entrance. Our businesses are dying, the cars are flooding our neighborhoods. And then we closed it for 2 years, and after 2 years, the businesses are screaming, please open it, you're killing our businesses. Like, wait a minute. And instead of maybe the Almond Grove getting hit with a lot of traffic, we got neighborhoods off of Los Gatos Boulevard just completely full of traffic. So we really just moved the problem from one place to another. And we did other things. We got ways to allow us to insert no left turns and no right turns to see how it would affect. And the apps are so smart that if you say you can't turn right onto Los Gatos Boulevard to go down to Route 9, they'll send you straight and do 3 lefts back the other way. So it's really tough to beat the apps. And we've had a lot of good ideas from people of, well, what if we say local traffic only? Or what if we charge a toll for people to go through town? The problem is we have to work within the state law limits, and state law says if a street is a public street, has to be all the way open or all the way closed. Can't be open for some and closed for another. So unfortunately, many of those ideas, we haven't been able to find a way to do something about it. I think that something on 17 is, if I'm starting with the idea of efficiency improvements on 17. If we can get the highway to flow better, more people are gonna stay on the highway. And some of my colleagues have had, these sort of fun ideas about zippers that are movable and things like that. But I look at it as an engineer, and as a project manager. I was engineer and project manager much of my career, 25 years career. How do you move these things forward? In reality, we're going to need a study to be done to move it forward. The study is going to tell us what the best options are. Wonderful ideas about zippers and so forth are probably not as important as what's the next step, and that's really getting a study. In my year as mayor, I started the conversation by I got together somebody from the California Transit Commission, somebody high up in Caltrans, the CEO of VTA, and our staff, and we had a meeting and we talked about how do we move this forward. And the first big stumbling block is we have something in our general plan that says we won't widen 17 because it would affect our quality of life in Los Gatos. And it's clear, I think, to most people that was written when they were thinking, well, if more people could drive to Los Gatos, they would fill up our town. Well, the opposite is happening. People are driving through our town because they can't stay on the highway, so it's affecting our quality of life. So again, the first thing we need to do is change our general plan policy to at least say something like, well, we won't widen 17 unless it improves or doesn't negatively affect our quality of life. So my focus has been on these stumbling blocks that allow us to move forward. Next thing we need is money for the study. Measure B, when it finally gets freed up in October, hopefully, the appeal should be over with on that lawsuit. We could hopefully get money soon. Again, you kind of got to get in line for all the different things Measure B is. Remember, Measure B is sales tax money over 30 years. So do we get ours now or do we get it in 30 years? Right. Well, our staff is ready to go apply for it right away, because that's really the next step to doing something. And when I discussed this with the heads of these organizations, I said, well, let's think about it from an efficiency standpoint. Maybe widening's not the right idea. Maybe it's longer acceleration lanes. Maybe it's meter lights, things that'll keep the flow going. Okay. And another important part of the puzzle is people don't want to lose the trees. If you widen, can you do it without losing the trees? If we're going to have to take the trees down on the side, we're probably not going to have support for that.
We're almost out of time, but I want to ask you one quick question. What's the most important thing on your agenda for the next 4 years? Pick the most.
That's difficult. As mayor, I had 6 focuses, and we've made a lot of progress on several of them. We've got more on the downtown coming with we've done a lot of ordinance changes to reduce red tape, but like the pilot coming, parking, looking for more parking solutions. I'm going to not stick to one. But one thing I'm really looking forward to is we approved a bicycle and pedestrian plan, and I really want to see some of those improvements.
Fair enough. Mayor Rennie, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
with us. This has been Coffee and the Candidates. For the record, KCAT TV reached out to all the candidates running for Los Gatos Town Council and Monte Sereno City Council. Candidates Steve Leonardis and Ben McLean did not respond to our invitation.